Good evening, everybody. This is Naruto King. Reading The Virgin Birth. This is part 2 of The Virgin Birth, titled The Curse of Coniah, which I actually should it's here. Curse of Coniah. I fixed the intro or the title. I didn't include the header there. This is volume 16 of The Unsearchable, which is issue number 7. This is a continuation, a short interlude, breaking up the discourse on Matthew in the Vladimir Galeznov series. So just taking a minute and reading this, The Curse of Coniah. This is part 2 of the first chapter of the compilation book, The Curse of Coniah, by a few different writers. I can actually look at it. We have Knoch in chapter 1, chapter 2. So I can understand what I'm looking at. Give me just a moment here. Is the genealogies of Jesus Christ as found in Matthew and Luke. It is by Joseph Edwin Hartill. Then there's a chapter 3 titled The Genealogical Records by Dr. Fred John Meldo. I don't know who he is. I'd have to look into some of these people. In chapter 4, Christ's Right to David's Throne, also by Dr. Fred John Meldo. Could be interesting to see. And then it's chapter 5. There's a 5th chapter. Great. David and His Wives, an allegory, the King and the Kingdom by John H. Cale. Could be interesting. I know that this is a very minor topic in the confines of the body of Christ, who quite enjoys the topics of Paul's Evangel, which previously unknown in our religious upbringing. But I also know that this could be a good rectification of some religious assumptions that we've made in reasoning. So, without further ado, let's get on into it and read. Matthew's genealogy is divided into 3 sections. As we read, then all the generations of Abraham till David are 14 generations, and from David till the Babylonian exile are 14 generations, and from the Babylonian exile till Christ are 14 generations. Matthew 1:17. This gives us the keynote of Matthew's account. It is concerned with the king and kingdom, or rather with their rejection. Its theme is government. Christ is given many titles, but his glories as the son of David are most prominent. These 3 groups of 14 generations deal with 3 distinct phases of the government of Jehovah's people Israel, each closed in failure. What a fit preparation to introduce the Messiah, who will retrieve all their failure, even though they despise and reject him. The first 14 generations, from Abraham to David, found the nation under the direct government of Jehovah. It was a theocracy. From David to the Babylonian exile was the period of the kings. Israel was a monarchy. The third group was the era of the nations. Israel was ruled by aliens, and the birth of Christ found them subject to the Roman yoke. What apostasy and declension is revealed in this survey of the nation, which was called out to rule the world. Theocracy a failure, the monarchy a failure, and even the foreign domination is a failure, for it leads to their being rooted out of the land and dispersed among all the nations of the earth. And they did not even have a nation state again until, I say nation state, they were not on the map until 1945. I believe is when they were placed back on the map. It was 46. Which is fascinating. And now it looks as though the Palestinian state, this is extremely current events, 2025, May 14th of 2025, the Palestinian state could come to pass. So maybe it's not over yet, and Israel could be removed. Fascinating to see. Jehovah communed with Abraham face to face and appeared to Isaac and Jacob. Moses saw him on the mount and received his laws for their guidance. When he brought them out of Egypt into the promised land, he gave them no king, for he was himself their sovereign. In their departure and distress, he sent judges or rulers to deliver them and sent prophets to lead them back to himself. But they drifted further and further from him. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. Judges 21:25. Kind of like how they do today. When Samuel's sons perverted judgment, the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and said to Samuel, "Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations." And the Lord said to Samuel, "Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto you. For they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them." 1 Samuel 8:5-7. Samuel protested and told them of the oppression which would come with a king and warned them that they would regret it. But they insisted, "Nay, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations." 1 Samuel 8:19-20. So the era of the theocracy ended in their rejection of Jehovah. He gave them a king in his anger and took him away in his indignation. And he chose David, a man after his own heart, to be their king. From David to the exile is the era of the monarchy. In giving them David, Jehovah not only typified the true king, Messiah, but gave the kingdom period a proper commencement, a divine impetus, so that its degeneration and collapse might be more marked. How great was the failure of the kings is the common knowledge of every reader of the Bible. Yeah. Solomon, who brought the kingdom to its highest pitch of prosperity, sowed the seeds of dissension, which resulted in the severance of the 10 tribes soon after his death. Occasional returns to Jehovah gave little relief, and Jehovah, God of their fathers, sent to them by his messengers, rising up times and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of God and despised his words and misused his prophets until the wrath of Jehovah rose against his people, till there was no remedy. 2 Chronicles 36, verses 15 and 16. Critics have not been slow to point out certain discrepancies in Matthew's list of kings. 5 names have been entirely omitted. Ahaziah, Joash, Amaziah are not there. The 2 sons of Josiah, Jehoaz, and Jehoiakim do not appear, while Coniah is included in the last group. There cannot be the slightest doubt that these names have been purposefully left out. The most ignorant of men could merely copy the list out of the Book of Kings, or could correct it by comparing it with the records. But it took a high degree of spirituality to leave out those names which God had blotted out because of their idolatry. Ahaziah, or Azariah, or Jehoaz walked in the ways of Ahab, slain by Jehu. 2 Chronicles 22, verses 3 and 9. Joash served Jehovah so long as the priest Jehoiada lived, but afterward the princes of Judah served idols, and he slew the son of Jehoiada, who remonstrated. Hence the servants of King Joash slew him and would not bury him in the tombs of the kings. 2 Chronicles 24, verses 17 and 25. Amaziah also bowed down to the gods of the sons of Seir and was slain by the people of Jerusalem. 2 Chronicles 25, verses 15 and 27. To imagine that Matthew did not know of these kings who played such a prominent part in Judah is nearly as foolish as to suppose that none of his readers were aware of them. He left them out because he did know, and being under the control of God's Spirit, he carried out God's judgment by blotting out their names according to the law. Deuteronomy 29:20. The line of kings ends with Josiah, or Jehoiakim, also called Shalom, instead of obeying the prophet Jeremiah's warnings, Jeremiah 22, 1-7, forsook the covenant and turned to other gods. Moreover, in the books of the Chronicles, which gave us the religious aspect of his apostasy, mention is made not only of his abominations, which refer to idolatry, but to that which was found in him or on him. 2 Chronicles 36:8. It is probable that he actually made cuttings in his flesh or printed marks on him, Leviticus 19:28, in the nature of tattooing as a sign of his allegiance to other gods. Is not this the reason why he was denied human burial and his name is blotted out of the register of the line of the kings? In the law, it was written that any man whose heart turns away from Jehovah their God and serves the gods of the nations, the Lord would not spare him, but shall blot out his name from under heaven. Deuteronomy 29, verses 18 through 20. The last period, that of Gentile rule, is aptly introduced by a king who lost not only his own throne, but regal rights for his descendants. Coniah begins the period of servitude, and notwithstanding all the heroic efforts of the Maccabees, none of David's sons succeeded to the throne of Israel. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, all bore sway over the holy people. Rome ruled when Christ came. Coniah means Jehovah stands up, or Jehovah establishes. Yet so hateful did he become in the sight of the Lord that God cut off the which stands for whoa, what the hell? Okay, I got this. Okay, hold my beer. Yet so hateful did he become in the sight of the Lord that God cut off the which stands for Jehovah, and called him Coniah to show that he would not establish him. So great is the bearing of this on the genealogy that we will quote at length concerning God's dealings with the last of Judah's kings. It's just so unique. Be like if someone put a Pink Floyd song in the middle of one of Beethoven's symphonies. As I live, says the Lord, though Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were the signe upon my right hand, yet would I pluck thee thence. And I will give thee into the hand of them that seek thy soul, and into the hand of them whose face thou fearest, even into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hand of the Chaldeans. And I will cast you out, and your mother that bare you, into another country, where you were not born, and there shall you die. But to the land whereunto they desire to return, thither shall they not return. Is this man Coniah a despised, broken idol? Is he a vessel wherein is no pleasure? Wherefore are they cast out, he and his seed, and are cast into a land which they know not? O earth, 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 hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, write you this man childless, a man that shall not prosper in his days, for no man of his seed shall prosper, sitting upon the throne of David and ruling any more in Judah. Jeremiah 22, verses 24 through 30. Holy crap. That's crazy. So he was one of the ones like you truly just chucks him right out of the lineage here. This is just insane. What an intense thing. Just imagine being that guy. He gets taken out of the Israel lineage there. I mean, that's wild. That would suck. Jeconiah had 7 sons. 1 Chronicles 3, verses 17 and 18. Hence his bereavement lay in the fact that not one of them was heir to his throne. No man of Coniah's seed should prosper, sitting on the throne of David and ruling any more in Judah. We must let the full force of this sink in. It is not without significance that no one of the royal race ruled in Jerusalem from that time forth. This goes deeper than that. It was absolutely impossible for anyone of the royal line to prosper on the throne. The curse of Coniah lies on the genealogy from Salathiel to Joseph. If our Lord were Coniah's seed, he could not be the Messiah. Wow. Yeah. It is the evident intention of this genealogy to lead us into a grave dilemma. The Messiah must be the son of David, yet he must not be of Coniah's accursed seed. His honors must come through the male line, yet it was a dishonor to be of Coniah's descent. Joseph could carry the honors to his son, but he must carry the curse to his seed. Hence, Messiah could not be his seed, though he must be his son. The great spiritual lessons of this genealogy may be said to be found in the names that are not there: Ishmael, Esau, Saul, the first king of Israel, Amnon, David's firstborn son, and as we have seen, Ahaziah, Joash, and Amaziah, the third and fourth generation of idolatrous Joram, as well as Jehoahaz and Jehoiakim, who transgressed the first commandment. Beginning with the father of the faithful, it is the line of faith in which the flesh is constantly at a discount. Ishmael was the firstborn of Abraham's flesh, but he was rejected, and Isaac, who was born after the Spirit and is a type of him whose generation was even more miraculous, took his place. Esau was Jacob's elder brother, yet he too was set aside for lack of faith. Of Judah's sons, both Er and Zerah give place to Phares. Even David was the least in his father's house, so that his father did not consider him at all when Samuel sought the one whom God had chosen. This is the lesson of the line from Abraham to David. The energy of the flesh is a complete failure. It is displaced by the power of faith. The era of the kingdom was a still more striking exhibition of the complete collapse of the ability of the flesh to generate a king in accord with the counsel of God. Not only were the names of the worst offenders blotted out, but the throne was taken from them and a curse put upon the royal seed. Nothing could be more futile than to expect Messiah to be born of this line according to the flesh. If Abraham could generate an Ishmael and David and Amnon, apart from divine interposition, what can we expect of Joseph? But in his case, there is divine interposition, for Coniah's curse conspires with the infirmity of the flesh to utterly incapacitate him and his seed for the throne of David. There has been a tendency to limit Coniah's disability to his days, but in fact, it extended along the whole line which he heads, and the passage is clearly final. Not only was prosperity to avoid him in his days, but no man of his seed should prosper, sitting on the throne of David and ruling any more in Judah. It is only as we discern the dilemma created by the genealogy that we fully appreciate the force of the words which immediately follow. Now, the generating of Jesus Christ was thus, Matthew 1:18. Then we are given full particulars of the manner in which Christ came, which was the only possible way of escaping the curse of Coniah and the infirmity of the flesh. Wow, this is why the virgin birth matters, because of the curse of Coniah. Fascinating. That adds quite a bit of weight to the virgin birth aspect of it that I wasn't wondering. I always myself wondered, like, doesn't matter if she was a virgin or not. Interesting. Christ is not a degenerate descendant of Abraham or an ignoble offspring of David, but more than Abraham and David's Lord, as well as David's son. Infidels have scoffed at and saints have puzzled over the apparent discrepancy between the number of names in Matthew's genealogy and the formula which divides them into 3 groups of 14 generations each. With characteristic Western prejudice, we imagine that such a list must necessarily consist of thrice 14 names. It is generally supposed that the error is at the end of the list, so that one more generation would correct it. But the real difficulty for us is in the first group of 14 generations. As the first 14 generations are from Abraham, we must begin the list with his name. And as the next 14 are from David, we must also begin the second list with his name. but this leaves only 13 generations from Abraham up to David. There can be no question of the correctness of these generations, for they are found not only in Matthew, but in Luke, and are confirmed by the Hebrew records. There was 1, Abraham; 2, Isaac; 3, Jacob; 4, Judas; 5, Phares; 6, Esron; 7, Aram; 8, Aminadab; 9, Naasson; 10, Salmon; 11, Boaz; 12, Obed; 13, Jesse. Only 13 generations, unless we include David. The solution is most simple. It lies in the different modes of thought, especially in computation between the Hebrews and ourselves. Their method was to string the 14s together like the links of a chain, which necessarily double at their points of contact. It is most appropriate that David's 1 generation should be counted twice and thus be brought into the greatest prominence. It is not that he is counted once as a lay member of the first 14 generations, and then later as a royal member of the second list, nor his reign divided and a part assigned to each. His generation can be but 1. But in the formula which follows, it is doubled because it is the last of 1, as well as the first of the succeeding group. But some may suggest, if this is the case, why was it not repeated where the second and third groups come together? Why is not Coniah counted twice, as well as David? As a matter of fact, the same method is used, but such is the wisdom of God that these spiritual values are maintained instead of being upset by the repetition of the name of Coniah. Note carefully how this is done. The overlapping link is not the name of a man, but an event. The exile into Babylon ends the second list and also begins the third. It is counted twice, just as David's generation was counted twice. It's interesting, just fascinating. This is how I've read it. I didn't know that there were some kings omitted until I watched Taylor Wilkins' series on this. By changing the link from a man to an event, no generation is doubled, but rather some are omitted. The link is broken at this point. Kings there are in plenty, but none whose name is worthy of repetition. Jehoaz and Jehoiakim, or Eliakim, were both sons of Josiah and reigned as vassals of a foreign power. The latter was guilty of cutting the wood of the Lord in pieces and casting it into the fire, Jeremiah 36, verses 9 to 32. Moreover, though Jeconiah reigned 3 months in Jerusalem, 2 Kings 24:8, he too is stricken from the roll of kings, for he did that which was evil in the sight of Jehovah, according to all that his father had done. So that there are altogether 6 names lacking from the list of kings. There were, in fact, 20 kings in 2 groups of 10 each. The first 7 names of each group are counted, the last 3 are blotted out. To show this more clearly, we give a list of them, putting the unworthy ones in square brackets. So we see 1, David; 2, Solomon; 3, Rehoboam, 4, Abijah; 5 is Asaph, or Asaph; Jehoshaphat, or Jehoshaphat; Joram. Only 3 are taken out for each group. Josiah, the last good king in Israel, is the 14th from David. Hence, it is a mistake to include Jeconiah in the royal generations. He is the head of a new group which can transmit the royal rights, but is impotent to provide an heir to the throne. The devout student will revel in the inimitable wisdom hidden in the very wording of the formula in Matthew. It is only another illustration of the great truth that the solution of such difficulties lies not in going far afield for explanations or altering the record, but in an intense devotion to the minutest detail indited by the Spirit. A similar disability may be seen, it's a great way of putting it. Just consider every detail, it's fine. It's okay. A similar disability may be seen in the case of David's progenitors as far back as the Pharaohs. The law declared that an illegitimate child should not enter into the congregation of the Lord, even to the 10th generation, Deuteronomy 23:2. This would exclude Phares, Esrom, Aram, Aminadab, Nason, Salmon, Boaz, Obed, and Jesse. David and his brothers were the first of his line for a long period who could enter into the congregation. Here, the prohibition is limited to the 10th generation, but in the case of Coniah, there is no limit. It is sometimes supposed that if the special and detailed accounts of our Lord's generation were proven to be spurious, that the virgin birth would go with them. It must be acknowledged that the recitals of both Matthew and Luke are as well authenticated for all practical purposes as any portion of the sacred text. No edition or editor that we have ever heard of even suggests their removal. It is not worthwhile to go into the details. The evidence is so complete and overwhelming. Yet even if every direct statement in these accounts were to vanish, the genealogy alone would be sufficient proof to the spiritual mind that he was indeed Emmanuel. If he were Joseph's child, he would be of Coniah's accursed seed. He could not prosper on the throne of David or rule in Judah. And we see further from Vladimir that it's totally okay to understand the need for the female to be the channel there. So that the genealogy of Matthew introduces a dilemma which can only be solved by the ensuing narrative of the virgin birth. Take out the divine begettal, and the rest of the book is worthless. The claims of its Christ are false, and the promises of the kingdom futile. If he is Coniah's seed, no change in his character or filling of the Spirit can counteract the curse that rests upon his royal aspirations. As such, he would be the last and least of a degenerate line, which has proved nothing so clearly as their incapacity to govern the holy nation. But enough of this. He is of the seed of David, come through Mary, his mother, but he is not of the seed of Coniah. But his royal rights are not based on this. They are built on the fact that he is the son of David and Jeconiah and Joseph, and inherits all their royal honors without their moral disabilities. A. Knoch. Thank you so much for that one there. That was quite the educational lesson. And I think that with the understanding that the understanding of Joseph being the father really, really helps understand. Per Vladimir's last part on Matthew, I just got this link that my computer's about to die. I'm going to actually end this one real quick. I might do the last one real quick as well. Virgin Birth Part 3. So end it here. Grace and peace, guys. See you in a second.